All right. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the world's most exciting classroom. My name is Joe Grabowski, and I'll be your host for today. We are here with the Darwin 200. We are live in the Galapagos, and I am on the public docks in Puerto Ayora, which is the largest city in the Galapagos. It's about 25,000 people who call this place home, and we are going to spend some time exploring the dock today. So when you get to the Galapagos, you don't have to go very far before you are surrounded by wildlife. And here on the public docks is an amazing example. In fact, let me turn my camera around and let me show you the first wildlife we're going to spend. You can actually hear them already. There we go. So here we go. I'm sitting here on the dock with some Galapagos sea lions. There they are, looking good. And they're having a little rest here. The one is very unhappy with the other one right now. It's trying to move away. But let's talk a little bit about these sea lions. So these are a unique species. They're only found in the Galapagos. They're an endemic species. It means they're found nowhere else in the world. And they are the smallest species of sea lion, the Galapagos sea lions. And so they spend a lot of their day doing this. You can see we're right in the town here, and they are more than happy just to be here, sleeping in town, resting in the sun. They do spend time in the water. They're very good swimmers. They're very good divers. So they do spend a lot of time hunting for fish in the water, and they love to play. So we have watched them swim in the water. That one found a hat one day and was trying to put the hat on top of its head in the water. And then another time, one found a paint roller, and we were watching two of them play and wrestle over the paint roller. So they're very playful. They're very curious. We have Sarah backstage who's going to play some videos for us today. So a couple days ago, I was on a different island. So this island is Santa Cruz, and we're in the town of Puerto Ayora. And a couple days ago, I was on San Cristobal, and I went out for some snorkeling at a place called Kicker Rock and saw all kinds of amazing marine life. So Sarah, if you want to play the first video for me, the sea lion video, and it's going to come up on the screen, and you're going to see what it's like to swim in the ocean with the sea lions. So here we go. Sarah's loading it up. And so they are so playful. They love it when you blow bubbles. They blow bubbles at you. If you go down and do somersaults in the water, they get so excited. They want to come and play as well. And then they're sneaky. So sometimes they try to bite your fins. Sometimes when I was here visiting a few years ago, one of them managed to pull my fin off. So I had to get my fin back from the funny sea lions. So you can see they're very fast in the water. They're very good hunters. They can hold their breath for a long time. And they can dive pretty deep searching for fish and other things that they do like to eat. So we're seeing them here on the dock, and now you're seeing what it's like to be in the ocean with them and spend a little time swimming with them. When this video finishes, we're going to walk around a little bit more. We're going to look at the sea lions, and then we're going to start to look for some more marine life, some more animals here around the public docks in Puerto Ayora. So just bear with for one moment while we wrap up the video. And then if you're tuning in, use the side chat bar. Send us in some questions, and I'll answer some of the questions as we're walking around. So if you have any questions about the Galapagos, about the marine life, the land life mammals that we're going to see, don't hesitate to send those questions in. So I'm going to stand up now, and we're going to explore a little bit together. So we're not going to get too close to the wildlife because the rules in the Galapagos are you stay 2 meters away. So you give wildlife space. So we'll walk around these sea lions here. And I want to show you something special on one of them. We just have to get to the other side. There we go. So this one here, if you look carefully, has a little orange tag on its flipper. And that little orange tag is something a scientist would have put on so they can track the sea lion. They can see how it's growing. And then I think here is a pup, and it's still drinking a little bit of milk from its mother. So you can see the mother here, kind of the browner color. And then the pup is still feeding and having a little bit of milk from its mother. So there we go. So you might wonder, why are the sea lions not afraid? Why do they not care that I'm here? And that's because in the Galapagos, they evolved without predators. So sharks in the water, yes, but on land, there are no predators. So they don't view humans as predators. They don't view humans as dangerous. So they actually don't really care too much that I'm here. That's the way it is with all the life in the Galapagos. The birds, the mammals, a lot of the wildlife in the ocean, they just don't care that we're here. So we'll see some more sea lions a little bit later as we walk around. But I want to show you the next animals we're going to visit. This is another species that's endemic to the Galapagos. This is the marine iguana. So the marine iguana are the only lizards in the world that use the ocean. The only lizards in the world that swim in the ocean. So during the day, they warm up in the sun. They're cold-blooded, so they need the sun. And then they will head into the ocean, and they can dive down about 20 meters, and they eat algae. So green stuff, plants in the water. And then they get cold pretty quick. So eventually they do, here's another one. Eventually they have to come back up and warm up in the sun like this guy is doing. So you can see here, they're warming up in the sun. They've got that black color, which helps them stay nice and warm. Their tails are squished flat, so it helps them swim in the water. And then their nose has a special gland because they drink the salt water when they're in the ocean. They have to get the salt out of their body. So their nose has a special gland. They sneeze the salt out of their nose. So if you sit with a marine iguana for long enough, eventually it's going to sneeze salty snot rockets on you because it has to get that salt out of its body. So they're endemic. You only find them in the Galapagos. And yeah, these guys are little ones. They get much, much bigger. They can be over a meter long and much, much bigger. But these ones are young. They're very little. So they'd be really susceptible to things like a Galapagos hawk or other predators. Once they get bigger, they're too big to have to worry about things like that. But these are small, small ones here on the dock. Now I'm going to make my way down the dock. We're going to see what else we see. Sarah, would you like to queue up another video for me? Maybe let's play the cow Noose Rays now. And I'll talk a little bit about the cow Noose Rays. All right. So we went snorkeling in a little lagoon here. And in this little lagoon, a nice shallow bit of water, we found a school here of these cow Noose Rays. So they have kind of a pointed snout. They're very different than a stingray, who like to stick to the bottom. These guys like to swim kind of in the open ocean in large groups. Sometimes you see them around docks at night because they're attracted to the light and the small fishes and food that they would find there. So this is a beautiful group of those cow Noose Rays here in the lagoon. Very, very cool. So that's the thing about the Galapagos, is we're here and we're walking on the dock and we're going to see a lot of wildlife. If you jump into the ocean, you see a lot of wildlife. In fact, as I round this corner, we're going to find a bunch more marine iguanas. And then there's a pelican waiting on the edge. So we're going to go take a look. We'll talk about the pelicans here for a moment. You can see a little bit of mangrove here on the side. Eventually, we're going to walk all the way out to this part of the public dock. This is where a lot of the tourists come and they get on different boats out here and they explore different parts of the Galapagos. So we're going to go a little further in here, and I see a few more animals here waiting for us. So we're going to take a minute here. We're going to visit some of those animals. As I told you, we are on Santa Cruz in the Galapagos. It is the most populated part of the Galapagos. You can see it's also very, very, very busy here. Lots of action going on. Here are some more of our marine iguanas. I'm going to sit here on the bench for a minute. Again, this is a bunch of really little, really young marine iguanas. They get way, way bigger than this. These are some young ones. The interesting thing about marine iguanas and other reptiles is when the Galapagos formed, they were barren rock. They were volcanic islands. Over time, seeds drifted here and plants grew. They could blow in the air. Birds could fly here, bats. But how did reptiles like these iguanas get here? Well, there would have been big storms off the coast of Peru, off the coast of Ecuador, and it would have washed tortoises and iguanas and lizards into the ocean. They would have been able to crawl onto parts of trees, of tree trunks, branches, leaves that form little floating islands after the storm. And then they can last a long time without water, without food, and they would have drifted here to the Galapagos. And so these, over hundreds of thousands of years, these iguanas, these marine iguanas, would have evolved into the form they are now through natural selection. And nowhere else in the world will you find them, and they're the only lizard that uses the ocean. All right, let's see who else is here. Here we go. We've got a pelican here. So these pelicans are keeping a close eye on the fishermen here. They are looking for any scraps that might come out from the fishing boats. So flying, and then they will dive bomb into the water on whatever fish they see. They've got a big pouch where they can catch the fish, hold the fish, and then swallow that fish. So here's a pelican. If you look, and then if I come around here, it's hoping that maybe some scraps will come from that fishing boat. So you can see it is a very, very busy place here at the public docks. We have another sea lion here, resting in the sun, relaxing. All right, let's continue moving down the dock. Sarah, if you want to queue up another video for me, let's look at the green sea turtles. Because we talked about how the marine iguanas eat algae. The green sea turtles eat algae as well. So let's talk about the green sea turtles for a minute. So I think that should be playing on your end. It's a bit slower on my end. There we go. So green sea turtles, there are 7 types of sea turtles. And the green sea turtles are the only ones you find in the Galapagos. So, 2 days ago in the water, we saw a lot of them swimming around. We got to watch them eating algae off of the rocks. And they get their name not because of their color, but because they eat so much green food, it turns their fat green. So if we could look inside this green sea turtle, you would see it has green fat. So 7 species of sea turtles. The only one in the Galapagos is the green sea turtle. All right. So while we're coming through here, I'm going to stop at these plants. Let's talk about some plants in the Galapagos. So here, this is a prickly pear cactus. And the prickly pear cactus, depending on which island you're on, is completely different. So they are an amazing example of natural selection. So evolution through natural selection. If you're visiting an island that has no tortoises and no land iguanas, these will be very small. They'll be like little bushes on the ground. Why? Because nothing's eating them. But if you visit an island with tortoises, an island with land iguanas, you can see that they grow much taller. They become more like trees. And that's because it keeps them high from the ground so that they can't eat these pads, these green kind of liquid-filled pads, which the marine iguanas, the tortoises, love to eat. And if we get in a little bit closer to this one, you can see it's covered in little fruits. And these little fruits are really, really favored by the tortoises. And they also grow yellow flowers. In fact, there's one open right here. Let's take a look. So here, these fruits eventually form these yellow flowers. And they're not pollinated by a bee. They're not pollinated by a bat. They're pollinated by a species of finch, a species of bird called the cactus finch. And they can reach their beak inside to get some nectar, and they bring the pollen from cactus to cactus. So really interesting example of natural selection. If there's an island with no predators, like tortoises or marine iguanas, the prickly pear cactus are really small shrubs. But on islands where there are tortoises and land iguanas, you get them forming more like these large trees to keep the predators from being able to reach the juicy bits. And that trunk here is covered in spikes. It's very spiky. You won't want to touch that trunk. You won't want to try and touch that. As it grows older, it'll look more like a tree trunk underneath. You'll see more of a trunk and less of the spikes on it. So really important to talk about some of the plant life in the Galapagos, because it's not all just animals. So this prickly pear cactus is such a good example of natural selection, of evolution. Okay, let's continue our trip. We've got a couple more marine iguanas hanging out here next to some of the mangroves. Here they are. Let's see if I can get a little bit close without scaring them and not getting too close. These guys are so small. They're so young. Tomorrow, if you can join us at 9 o'clock Eastern, we're going to broadcast live from Tortuga Bay. And we're going to use our Starlink unit. So it'll be a beautiful, crystal clear picture. We're going to see full-size marine iguanas. We'll see flamingos. We might see baby hammerhead sharks. So tomorrow at 9 o'clock Eastern is going to be a really fun event live from Tortuga Bay. Here's a statue of a waved albatross. So these waved albatross, they get their name because of the wavy pattern on their chest. And they only breed, they only have young on one island in the world, and that's Espanola. Espanola is the oldest island that formed in the Galapagos, and it's closed right now. So tourists can't visit because there's something called bird flu that's been affecting Espanola closed. I think it grew. So we can't visit Espanola, the oldest island in the Galapagos. So Sarah, let's cue up another video. There should be one about white-tip reef sharks. Let's take a look at the white-tip reef sharks while I look for some more wildlife. Perfect. I see it loading up. So this is in the same lagoon we saw the cow Noose Rays. We saw about 15 to 20 of these white-tip reef sharks along the bottom. They are found all over the world, but you find a lot of them in the Galapagos. And they're a special species of shark. They're one of the sharks that don't need to move to breathe. A lot of sharks have to keep moving. They call it ramjet ventilation. They need the water coming across their gills. But there are some sharks, like these white-tip reef sharks, that are buccal pumpers. And that's just a fancy way of saying that they So some sharks need to move and keep water on their gills. Some sharks, like these white-tip reef sharks, they don't need to move. They can pump water over their gills. And so they hunt at night mostly. And so we found that group of about 20 of them sitting on the bottom of the lagoon. Here is a group of marine iguanas that just came out of the ocean. So they're a little darker because they're wet. So they're just starting to dry off here in the sun. And if you look, there's a couple here that are a little bit bigger. You can see some really small ones next to some bigger ones. But we're not seeing the really big adults here. Here we're seeing a lot of the young ones kicking around. We're not seeing a lot of the young ones around today. Okay, let's continue on and see what we see. Maybe we can find some more birds. If we're lucky, we'll see a blue-footed booby. Maybe we'll see a frigate bird, which are flying around here. This is an Annie, this bird here. It's got kind of a funny big bill here. A smooth-billed Annie, there it goes. And then Sarah, maybe while I switch to another dock, let's play the video of the hammerheads. So this was my favorite video so far. This is a video of the hammerheads. Hola. So at Kicker Rock, we found a beautiful group of about a dozen hammerheads. You can see that they didn't really care that we were there, but we were able to get some really nice video swimming with this group of hammerhead sharks. They are probably one of the most common sharks in the Galapagos. They can be found in groups of hundreds of them, especially places really far to the north. There's Darwin and Wolf Islands to the north, where scuba divers go, and they usually spend a week living on a ship so that they can dive all week long with the hammerheads. So beautiful hammerhead sharks. I see a question here in the chat. This is a question from Miss Lee's class, and they're wondering if the animals are stressed out when they're tagged. And I think the best answer for that is probably while the tagging is happening. So I'm sure it's probably confusing for a human to come and put the tag on, but after that, the tags are so small, they're so light that I don't think that they notice them anymore. Eventually, they might grow larger and the tags fall out, so I don't think they last forever. The tag that we saw over there is a number tag. So there'd be a number on it, maybe 310. And then that would identify that sea lion. And whenever scientists found that sea lion, they could see how it's grown, they could see how it's doing. Sometimes they put satellite tags on the turtles, on the sea lions, and then they can track how they move through the ocean. They put them on the hammerhead sharks as well. So satellite tags, anytime that animal pops to the surface, it sends a signal to a satellite. That sends a signal to the computer. And then the scientist can track the movement of the marine life, which is pretty cool. Try to learn where they eat, where they spend most of their time, where they migrate. Because if we can learn that, that's going to help us better protect wildlife and make sanctuaries and marine protected areas so that we can protect that wildlife. So we're going to make our way down the dock a little bit more. If you see in front of me, my path is going to be blocked in a moment by another sea lion who's having a sleep on the dock. Now, I can't get too close because it's an active dock. People are working here. But if you look on the end of this dock, there's a little heron. This is called a lava heron. So they're black, so they blend into the lava rock. And then they would hunt things on the rock, maybe small lizards, young crabs. They would hunt those on the rock. So that's a lava heron there. All right. Here is a sea lion with another tag on its fin. Let's see if we can read the tag on this sea lion's fin while we walk by. So this one here is X543. It's got one on each fin. And so this will be logged somewhere in a notebook of a scientist, maybe on a computer, and then they can check up on this sea lion and see how it's doing over time. So this one, his tag is X543. It's got one in each flipper. So don't be shy. We're going to be together for maybe another 10 minutes. If there are any questions out there about the Galapagos, about the marine life that we're seeing, don't be shy to send those questions in. We have another sea lion here on the dock. And then one more here. Tucked under there. There we go. And we'll go to the other side so we can see the face. There we go. Look at those eyes. Big, beautiful brown eyes. Hey, buddy. All right. So yeah, smallest species of sea lion all over the Galapagos. And you can see that they live a pretty relaxed life. The reason why the Galapagos can have so much life is because the waters are cold and full of nutrients. So let's look out at these waters here. Kind of turquoise blue waters. Yeah, they, when things like plankton and zooplankton, even things like whales and sharks, when they die, they sink to the bottom of the ocean. And those nutrients are unlocked and they drift around in deep sea currents, cold, cold water. Now, the Galapagos Islands are volcanic forms, so they're almost like walls in the water. And when the nutrient-rich cold water hits the sides of the islands, it's pushed up to the surface. We call that upwelling. And that upwelling brings all those nutrients to the surface. So all kinds of plant life, phytoplankton in the water can grow, which means that all kinds of things can feed off of them, like whale sharks and manta rays. Then things can feed off of those. So all that nutrient-rich water is good for the fish. It's good for the plant life. It's good for the mammals. It's good for the birds. So the Galapagos can have a ton of life because of these beautiful nutrient-rich waters. And then seabirds and sea lions and marine iguanas, they take those nutrients from the water and transfer them to the land when they poop and things like that. So the nutrients move from the water onto the land. So Sarah sent in a question in the back. She's in Mexico right now, and there's some blue-footed boobies in Mexico as well. So she's wondering if there are different species. And as far as I know, between Galapagos and Mexico, that they are the same species. You don't find blue-footed boobies in a lot of places around the world. The Galapagos is, I think, where you find most of them. This is kind of a home for them. There's 3 species of booby in the Galapagos. There's the Nazca booby, there's the red-footed booby, and then there is the blue-footed booby that we already kind of talked about a little bit. I don't know if you can see up there that bird. It might be, the signal might not be good enough to see this bird gliding up here. It's called a frigate bird. And they're often called pirates of the air because they don't catch fish for themselves. They like to steal fish from other birds. So they might see a bird, a mother feeding its young bird, and they'll bug and harass them until they can steal the fish. They might see a blue-footed booby catch a fish in the air, and they'll dive bomb that blue-footed booby until it drops its fish. So they get that name, Pirates of the Sky, because they steal their fish from other birds that catch the food. Do the boats ever hurt the wildlife? That's a really good question. Who's saying that? Yanexi's asking that question. So not usually. When the boats are in harbor like this, they have to go pretty slow. They can't move very fast. So with any luck, they won't hit any of the marine life. So the boats go pretty slow. And then there's probably collisions once in a while, maybe a turtle getting bumped by a boat, but turtle shells are made of thick bone. So usually a bump from a boat won't hurt a turtle too badly as long as the boat's moving really slowly. The sea lions, they move so fast that I don't think a boat could catch them unless the boat was moving really, really fast. And then the dolphins. So we sailed here. Let me see if I can show you the Oosterschelde in the harbor. We sailed here from San Cristobal yesterday. And the Oosterschelde is, it's hard to see because there's a boat blocking it, but there's a tall ship just behind that white boat in the middle where there's a gap. You can see the brown masts sticking up. That's the Oosterschelde out there. And we had some bottlenose dolphins that were playing around the front of the ship. They love to race with the ship. They love to play and jump in the waves that the ship makes off the front. It's called a bow wave. And so they roll on their back. They make it look easy. They move so much faster than the ship. So they don't have to worry about getting hit by the boats either. So easy answer is I don't think it happens very often because where most of the boats are like this, they have to move very, very slowly. They can't go very fast until they get out into the open ocean. You can see this boat going slowly by in front of us. So Sarah, I think we have one more video to play, and I'm going to see if I can find one more type of animal here to show off. So I think the last video from Kicker Rock is the eagle ray, the spotted eagle ray. Let's see if we can pull that video up. All right, I see it loading up for us. All right, I don't see it on my end, but that could be because my signal's a bit slower. Hopefully you see the ray. It's got a very dark top with white spots, spotted eagle ray, and the bottom is white. And that is a form of camouflage called counter shading. So if you're a predator on the top of the water and you look down, the ocean is dark. So something like a shark looking down might not see the eagle ray because it's so dark, it blends in with the bottom. Now, if a predator was down below and looking up, the white belly blends in with the sky. So again, the predator might not see the eagle ray. So that is called counter shading. It is a type of camouflage basically in the water. And you'll see counter shading in things like manta rays. You'll see it in some sharks. You'll see it on penguins. So penguins usually have that white belly and they have the dark back. And again, that's an example of counter shading. If a predator is down below, the penguin blends in with the sky. If the predator is up above, the penguin blends in with the bottom, the darker part of the ocean. So there we go. We're seeing that beautiful eagle ray. And they get that name eagle ray because it almost looks like that snout, almost kind of looks like a pointy, like a beak of something like an eagle. All right, back with me. So I think we've kind of walked around both parts of the docks. I might go back to the marine iguanas one more time before we sign off today. But maybe I'll show you the square here as well. So there's a square here in the middle of Puerto Ayora. This street here is called the Malecon. So it's full of souvenir shops, dive shops, restaurants for people to come and eat. It's a very busy place. At night, it gets very, very busy. You can see there's a little skateboarding park here. Some kids come down here and play soccer at night. So this is a little square here in Puerto Ayora, right off the public dock. And then there is a little stage here. So they must have performances here from time to time. Okay, Freddie wants to know about a rare animal that lives in the Galapagos. All right. Freddie, will I walk to these marine iguanas? I'm going to have a think about that. I've been very lucky. I visited the Galapagos. This is my third time. I'm trying to think of something that's very rare. Well, I don't know if it's rare in all of the islands, but one example I'll give is a tiger shark. So you see lots of white-tip reef sharks. You see lots of hammerheads when you're in the right spot. But there are tiger sharks around the Galapagos, and we don't see those very often. But we might have a video that we can share from somebody who saw one the other day. And I just spotted another bit of wildlife that I can show you before we wrap up. I might have to hang over the edge here a little bit. Yeah, okay. So here, if you look against the black lava rock, you'll see some red. And that red is Sally Lightfoot crabs. Let me try and get a little bit closer. I might be able to see some if I come over here a little bit better. Maybe. I don't know if that's much better, but there's some crabs there. You can see their bright red color. So some of them are black, some of them are red. If they're black, that means that they're young. So they're small and their shells aren't very hard. So they need to blend in with the rock to avoid predators. If they are red, that means they're older and their shells are much harder. And so they don't get attacked by a lot of predators because they have their shells that really help to protect them. And Freddie, I just thought of a good example of a rare Galapagos animal for you. Now, many of you have probably heard about Darwin and his finches. So on the different islands, you can find finches with different shaped beaks. And sometimes the beaks are pointy for eating bugs. Sometimes the beaks are really thick for crunching seeds. And so by looking at things like the finches, Darwin was able to think about evolution and how species could change depending on where they are. So that's natural selection. If there's an island with really tough seeds, birds that have thicker, stronger beaks will survive. Where if there's an island with lots of insects, maybe hiding in parts of trees, then birds with thinner beaks will have a better chance of surviving and catching those insects over time. So there's a finch called the mangrove finch, and there's only about 40 pairs of them left. So there's an invasive species called a species of fly. And they go into the nests of these birds, of the swamp finches, and they kind of rasp and pick at the chicks, and the chicks usually end up dying. So that's a really good example of a rare species. There's only about 40 pairs left. And then the research station here, the Charles Darwin Research Station, is doing a really important conservation project that has two parts. One part is they collect eggs of the swamp finches, the mangrove finches, and they breed them in captivity. So they raise them and release them later. They also are looking for a way to get rid of those invasive flies, which is really hard to do because you don't want to hurt the insects that belong in the Galapagos, but you do want to get rid of the species of fly that doesn't belong, that's having an impact on the wildlife, like those finches. So that's a good example. The mangrove finch is a really good example of a rare species in the Galapagos. And it's partly due to human activity. So we brought those flies with us, and now they're impacting the. All right, I want to give everyone a shout out for joining us today. Hopefully you'll be able to tune into more events this week. At 9 o'clock Eastern tomorrow, 7 o'clock Galapagos time, we will be on Tortuga Bay. Hopefully we'll see baby hammerheads. Hopefully we'll see giant marine iguanas, maybe some blue-footed boobies. Who knows? If you want to find the rest of the events, visit World's Most Exciting Classroom.com, and you can find lots of events there. World's Most Exciting Classroom.com. For now, though, I'm going to sign out. Thank you so much for joining us. And we hope to see you in some more events live from the Galapagos. So thanks, everyone.